Welcome to my 8-in-1 half square triangle tutorial. This is Frances. This is not actually my method. It is the Fawns and Porter method, and they didn't have a copyright or trademark on that. Lots of people will do tutorials showing you how to do this, but that's where I learned it from Fawns and Porter. And here we have two 9-inch squares. And what I want out of this is 8 3.5-inch half square triangles. Now, those of you who can do math, I would not be one of you. I can't do math, which is actually kind of one of the reasons I cut big. What we're going to get from these 9-inch squares of fabric are 4-inch half square triangles. That's right. I'm going to be wasting some fabric. And those of you who are like, don't waste fabric, Frances, you should see how much fabric I waste by making wonky half square triangles. Really, this is nothing. What I end up trimming from these half square triangles is a drop in the ocean compared to what was happening before. I am not a precise piecer. As I like to say, I honor those people who are, and I respect you. I'm not doing this out of some great rebellion. This is just me being me, which is kind of messy, a little bit left-handed. And, although I know there are left-handed people who are really precise piecers, I don't think I can really blame my left-handedness. But, okay, let me show you what I've got here. I hope you can see this. I don't know if you can, but I have folded this piece of fabric. If I put it right here, and how I folded it is first of all, on the diagonal, like this, making very sure to get these points together. You can see me doing that. I'm going to do my best to keep this and up, but making sure also to get a good line in here. So just finger pressing, and that is for me usually enough of a line to follow. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to do just repeating so you can see. Again, get that point sharp. Make sure you've got a good line in the middle. Okay. But if you're like, I don't know if I can see that. Well, you may not be able to see it here. It's like, I've got a spotlight here. I'm like, maybe if I turn my spotlight on it, you may be able to see it. Sometimes I can't see. Turns up later. Anyway, you may be thinking that's not enough. You would like to actually use your ruler and just draw those diagonals. And I say go ahead, because these diagonal lines are also going to be cutting lines. So whatever you use there, as long as it's not like a thick Sharpie, you'll never see it again. I also fold sort of horizontally, vertically. I don't know. Is there really a horizontal and a vertical on a square? I don't think so. But I do these folds like a plus sign fold. And those will also be cutting lines. So that gives me my sewing lines, right? And so then what I do is I just put this on top. I try to make sure that they're even, that they're lined up. As you can see, even though I used the same rulers and the same methods, I didn't quite make cut these the exact same size. But this is why we work big, right? There's all kinds of room for messing up. And you know what? That is what I need in my life. I need a lot of grace. So now I'm going to get a lot of pins out of my, look at this. This is a very pretty little pin dish. I don't know where I got it. I think maybe my friend Catherine's mom from England gave it to me. And now I have a magnet down there, and I keep lots of pins. I don't have, I think, a strong pin game. But speaking of pins, I'm going to do an around the world pinning. And I like to do 2 pins across each line. But if you have pins that you really love, let me know in the comments, because I would like to know. One of my problems, sorry, I think I just kicked the camera, so it's not an earthquake, it's me being clumsy. I tend to be cheap, and sometimes this works out really well for me. Oftentimes it does not. And well, I've learned certain things over the years, like don't be cheap when you buy machines, although I have to tell you, when I did buy my first sewing machine, it was cheap. It was $100 at Target, which, by the way, is a very common origin story when it comes to quilters. I'm sorry, I'm just getting out. I am a staff writer for Quilt Folk, and I have interviewed a lot of quilters, famous, not famous, infamous, and that first machine for so many is the $100 cheapo machine from Target. And I'm trying to think if mine was a Johnson or a Brother or what it was. I don't know, but that's what I got. But ever since then, my mom has been giving me her old Berninas because my dad is always giving her new Berninas. My parents have gotten to that stage in life where it's just like, what do we give each other anymore? All right. One of my goals, y'all, is to keep stuff in the frame. There we go. And so you can see that lovely pinning job. And so what you're going to see next is what this looks like after I sew it. But before I do that, let me just tell you what you do. You're going to sew. I use my 1/4 inch foot because I want that guide going down straight down this line. You're just sewing the X's, right? And you're going to sew to either side. So down this, so you've got a 1/4 inch seam going down that side, a 1/4 inch line, and a 1/4 inch that side, this side, that side. Again, I'm going to show you in a second. Just the X's, right? Don't do this. I have done that. It's not life-shattering or anything, but it's kind of a pain. And a 1/4 inch on either side. By using your 1/4 inch foot, then you can just run the guide right down there. And that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to show you the lines, and then we'll cut together. So I'll be right back. Okay, so here we are, and I think you can see the double X, right? And so these are the lines I sewed on, and this is the X that was made. And now we're going to do some cutting, which makes me wish I had put my ruler and my rotary cutter right beside me, but I didn't. When I get good at this, I'll remember those things. So what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to use my longer ruler to do the first cut. And really what I'm going to do is place that 1/4 inch line against the seam right there. I don't feel like that's really a seam, but you know what I mean. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. And we're going to keep in mind, you're like, but Frances, you're going to kind of miss the point, which wouldn't be the first time, right? Also, let's keep in mind, we've got a certain amount of grace, but on the other hand, I do want to be careful because these will be the real seam lines. So let me be careful here. Okay. It's more important to have the 1/4 inch, right, from the sewn line than it is to have the perfect points. I think that is my main point. All right. That sounded good. I don't know. All the sewing stuff, like sewing and cutting. First of all, I'm very much a process person in general, but it's so satisfying. So we're going to then do that again here and not do the 1/2 inch, which I was just doing, but a 1/4 inch from the sewn line. And yep. And there we go. And now I'm like, ooh, guess who might need to add a new rotary blade? And if you're like me, you're like, I'll do that in a bit. And you'll make yourself suffer. Look at, we live such thready lives. I can't, I'm doing these videos, these various videos for things. I'm going to go ahead and cut off some of these threads. And sometimes I'll look at myself and I'm just like covered in threads. But I just feel like quilters will understand. And like, how many times have you gone out in public? And I wear a lot of solids. I wear a lot of neutrals. I wear a lot of black. You can tell I've got my black sweater on right now. And I have to tell you, I go out and I'm just covered in thread half the time. I look a mess. All right. And guess what? See that? We've got like a flower blooming. We've got our half square triangle. And I'm going to do that again so I can see. You know, I don't actually have to do that. Let me show you the other thing. I was going to fold again to have the good fold line. But see where that crosses? You just try to get your line lined up with the bottom, the base of the triangle, and then you cut in through the cross there. And that's going to get you what you need. All right, so we're going to do that over here. Again, trying to make sure that I'm actually in the frame, which I kind of am not. And kind of am now, I guess. Close enough, yeah. And I could move the camera higher, but I think you understand that there's a big triangle here. Okay, I got that. Yep, gonna need a new blade. Now here the X is a little off. So I could do something crazy like measure to see that this is 8 inches. That makes sense if it's a 4-inch. So it's going to be a 4-inch half square triangle. And so I'm going to do that. And that actually, does it seem like I'm talking to myself at this point? I mean, I know anyone walking through this room would think that I'm talking to myself, but I'm not. I'm talking to you. And yet I was also kind of muttering, all right, this one's a cleaner right through that. And do you know when I'm saying the X? I mean this part up there. It's like an X. I was going to make a joke about the X, but it wasn't a good joke. I'm going to stop. All right, so here we go again. All right, and that gets us all our triangles. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trim a triangle. And as it just so happens, I've got a few right here. And so you can see, so this is my 4-inch triangle and half square triangle. Let's call it what it is. And yes. And so what I do to do this, obviously this is wonky. This is a wonky one. The wonkiness is not caused by the angle of my camera, but the wonkiness of the half square triangle. And this, my friends, is why I go big. So what I do is I put this line, if you can see it, it starts at 12 here. It goes down right to about 6.5 here. I put that line, and what I do, if I can explain it, is I move up until over here, what I've got is about a 1/4 inch of fabric on the right. I have a little bit more than a 1/4 inch, and I want to be careful because it's a heartbreak if you overcut, if you do it wrong. So now I've got just a touch less, right? And what I'm going to do, of course, is cut over here. Boom. And then I've got a nice line to work with. Here's the next thing with the half square triangle. I'm going to give you a little bit of a... All right. Here's the thing with the half square triangle. I'm sorry. That was an unnecessary noise. Still trying to work with the camera and center things. So you see this. Obviously, it's excess. What we want is a really nice... See if I can find one that is finished. I have them all over the place. Well, you're just going to have to... I'll have to make my own example, right? You want really nice points here, right? You want at that point there. It can be every once in a while, it's like for some reason I just don't cut correctly and I've got a little bit of what's called a fabric overhang. This is the kind of stuff that I think we as quilters obsess about. And everyone, and it can cause a kind of insanity. But in some ways, as I've been clear about, I'm not the world's most precise quilter, but when there's opportunities to be precise, I try to take them. So anyway, so I want that. So I'm at this point measuring my 3.5. So 1, 2, 3.5 against the corner there, the corner that I want. I'm going up here, all right, because I really would love to have these very sharp corners there. And it's going to, 9 times out of 10, I get them. It's weird. I've got that right on a white line on my cutting mat, and it's confusing me. Okay, here we go. I've got this right there, 3.5 right there. Look at that. That's pretty nice. All right, and what's going to happen here? Am I going to get my clean corners the way that I want? Yes, I did. So there's our half square triangle. Yep, we wasted a little fabric, but believe me, that's nothing. That's nothing. You're looking at a woman who, yeah, that's a victory right there. So that is how to do 8 half square triangles at once. I find it fun. You might notice that even though I'm doing 8 units at once, it's not like I'm Speed Racer here. It's not like just chop, chop, chop. And look, we've got all the half square. Look, I'm going to make a little, there we go. Look, a little tableau for you. So no, it's not speedy, and the cutting things down does kind of add time to it. It doesn't just kind of add time to it. It does add time to it. But as a process girl, I'm okay with that. This is why I no longer make quilts for Christmas, because I don't like deadlines. I like to take my time. I like my little half square triangle. And now you know how to do this as well. And I hope that this tutorial has been helpful to you. If you've got your own tips, tricks, suggestions, leave them for everybody in the comments section. We would all appreciate it. Thanks for watching.